understanding how the clients feel about money, what their emotions are, what their history is with money. And then we also want to understand, like, what are their values? What do the clients hold important? Because some clients will hold like, well, I don't really need to make a lot of money. That's not important to me. I want to have more money to travel. I want to have more money to support philanthropy. So it's understanding what the client's values are and where they're coming from will help us be better advisors.
Welcome to Knowing Me, Knowing You, the podcast for the future of wealth management. Thanks for being here. I'm Marla Sofer. Money is a tool. It empowers people. Let's dive into how technology is personalizing advice, strengthening connections, and creating lasting impact. If you're an advisor looking to differentiate, a fintech leader shaping the next wave, or a client ready to take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and today we are joined by Tony Steuer, author, podcast host, and the founder of the Get Ready movement. Tony has spent his career making financial literacy accessible, practical, and actionable. His work empowers individuals and professionals to take control of their financial lives through better questions, better conversations, and better decisions. With multiple books under his belt and a popular podcast of his own, Tony has become a leading voice in the financial literacy space, advocating for integrity, inclusion, and impact. Through the Get Ready movement, he's built a collaborative platform that elevates diverse perspectives and challenges the way that we think about money. Tony, welcome to the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast.
Hi. Glad to be here, Marla. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that we met. I think we met through Kina Pettenjohn, who tagged us on a post. And Kina has just been so phenomenal. She's a great supporter of Know Me. She is somebody who knows everybody in the world of wealth tech, it seems.
Yeah, and she can remember who they all are, which is the most amazing thing.
The most amazing thing. I love what she's doing around kind of money and longevity and the decumulation phase, which I think she doesn't really believe in. I think she is going to be a builder until the end. A huge fan of Kina's. So we always start off, Tony, with the question of what excites you about the moment we're in right now about the future of wealth?
Well, I think we're seeing a huge shift where we're talking more about what people want to achieve rather than specifically products. And so I think that's an exciting part of the moment we're in. I think the other moment we're in is that we're seeing that the industry needs to move beyond the traditional people in the industry, and then we need to bring in everyone into the conversation. We need to have very diverse and unique perspectives. So basically, it's almost like this is a new industry entering a new phase of its life.
I love that. And I think that part of that shift, when you think about achievements versus products and the diversity of customers, the diversity of providers who help people to get to those achievements, it starts with this level of help me understand money better. And it feels like that is a lot of your focus. You're really aiming to improve financial literacy, make it actionable, make it accessible. What does that mean for you? Tell us a little bit about your history and what brought you to the Get Ready movement.
Well, so I started out a few years ago as a fee-based insurance consultant, and I worked mostly with financial planners. I worked with litigation attorneys, trust officers. So I got to see insurance policies from all kinds of different perspectives. And what I saw was that nobody really understood the insurance. The people who were buying the insurance policies didn't understand it. The people who were selling it didn't really understand what they were selling it. And the companies who were issuing the policies didn't really understand it. So it started to seem to me that there was something else going on under the surface. People were buying insurance policies, managing policies. There were financial planners involved in the process. But it was like they wanted to have the insurance, but nobody really understood what the insurance products were. And as I got deeper into the conversations, I noticed that that was the whole spectrum of the financial services world is, people are focused on returns and expenses and all these things. And we weren't asking the question of, well, what do people want to achieve? Which I found really ironic because the first question most financial planners would ask me was, is this policy any good? And is it the right policy for me? Because when I first started started consulting, I came in, I had spreadsheets, I had long reports, I was ready to go. I wasn't always prepared for that first question of like, okay, what is this? Is it any good? What should my client do? So typical financial services approach, I could tell them everything about the history of the product and everything, but that's not what they want to know. So I started becoming interested in educating people. And eventually that led me to the next part where I found that people didn't know when to take action. Is, for example, a lot of people lapse life insurance policies in the first few years. The majority of whole life policies lapse in the first 5 to 10 years. So what was happening is that people weren't even asking the right questions, and they didn't know the right questions to ask. They didn't know what actions or little steps to take. So I became really fascinated by trying to figure out like, okay, what's going on behind the scenes for people? Why are they making these decisions when the numbers don't support these decisions? And they're smart people. They understand. It's not that there was a lack of understanding. It's not like there was a lack of anything else of information, but yet there was something else going on. So I really became focused on that whole concept, as you mentioned, of changing the way we think about money and the thought process that goes into our financial decision making.
That's amazing. So what does that actually mean? When you think about how you came about it, you were in the insurance industry and you recognize that it's not just insurance for which we're not asking the right questions, and we're not starting with, what do you want to achieve with this product? We are just selling you the product. You realized it goes way beyond insurance. It's all financial products. Everyone in this ecosystem is taking the same product-centric approach to just buy this. Just buy this instead of, here's why you should buy this. This is what it's going to help you achieve in your life. These are the outcomes that you can get. So a couple of questions. One is, what is the Get Ready movement, and how are you approaching the transition to helping people know, whether it's through literacy, or what are the components of the Get Ready movement that help people make better decisions, that help them achieve their outcomes? How can people learn more about it?
Well, so the Get Ready movement, the concept is to help people organize and monitor all areas of their financial life, because the biggest thing that I found was that people didn't even know what financial services and products they have is, and I know for financial planners, that was one of the most frustrating things is, okay, how many life insurance policies do you have? What other insurance policies do you have? Can you give me an inventory? Do you know who your insurance policies are with? And the clients wouldn't know, or they'd call up a month later, go, yeah, I forgot I have this insurance policy that I got through my old employer, whatever. We've all been there and seen it. And then the other thing is they wouldn't go back and review things. And so that was a big part of it for me, is seeing a number of insurance policies where an ex-spouse was the beneficiary or a deceased business partner, but basically somebody that you did not want as the beneficiary. So it was part of like, okay, well, people aren't going back and reviewing these things. So much of it is focused on the new rather than, okay, the old. And then the other piece that was really missing was how the pieces all fit together. Advisors not really talking to each other, people not really focusing on that. So with my 2 Get Ready books, is the first one, Get Ready, is all about how to organize the various areas of your financial life. And then the Get Ready Blueprint is a 52-week guide to reviewing all areas of your financial life where there's clear action steps on how to do it. Like, one of the things is reviewing beneficiaries on your insurance policies, on your bank accounts, and on your retirement plans. Things that we should all do each year, but fall through the cracks. The financial planner goes, well, the insurance agent should be taking care of updating the beneficiaries on the life insurance policy. The estate planning attorney says, well, the financial planner should be taking care of all this, and yet nobody does. So that's the goal of the Get Ready movement, is to help people take a look at their financial life from an overview basis.
The 3 things that I pulled out of what you just said, which sound really core to the movement and the books that you wrote, is that it really starts with an inventory, a blueprint, and accountability. You're helping people really recognize, what do I have? What do I need to have? And then how do I hold myself and the people I pay accountable? Which aligns really beautifully with kind of what the vision for Nomi, what we're looking is, and what do they need to know about you to create that accountability? When you look at what you've written and all of your impact on the market so far, what do you think that is holding people back from taking control? Why are people so reluctant to really get a handle on their money, go through that inventorying, blueprinting, and monitoring so that they get the most out of it?
Well, I think the financial services industry, if they've done one thing really well, is it's turning people off from the financial services industry. So
Yeah.
from the outside is one example is we expect people to come in and want to learn everything about financial services. So let's say you sit down with your financial planner. They want to tell you about the 10 best mutual funds and how they work. But if you think about it this way, when you go in to see your doctor may say, okay, well, you need a knee replacement, but they don't need to tell you everything about every knee replacement procedure. And say, well, here's the 5 knee replacement procedure techniques. We want you to pick the best one for you. And we expect that in the financial services industry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's such a beautiful analogy. It's like, I'm not going to make you pick the vendor who created the hardware that I'm going to put in your knee in order to help your knee work. Like,
exactly. We trust the doctor because we're going to the expert and we want him to help us, in this case, get a knee replacement. But we don't really care that much. The doctor's going to give us the pros and cons of different types of knee replacement surgeries. And I'm just using that as an example, but that's kind of the difference in how we approach things in financial service. The other thing we don't do is we don't encourage people to be curious and to ask questions. And the thing is, most people don't even know what questions to ask, and not knowing what questions to ask keeps them from ever getting the right answers. So they don't know the starting place. And so that's the big thing that I think we need to do is we need to encourage, and you and I were talking about this, share this with Nomi, is to be curious and to ask questions so that they are taking control, because that's probably the last piece of it, is that people don't feel like they have control over the areas of their financial life. They still feel, even if they have a financial planner or an insurance agent or an estate planning attorney, like, this stuff is super complex and I don't really understand it. And I'm not buying into it completely.
So you gave a really great perspective on here's what's turning people off and here's what's holding them back. How can professionals better support the individuals? And so you kind of referenced curiosity, asking the right questions. This is part of the problem. Where do you see the solution or parts of the solution to help change the dynamic of the relationships?
Well, I think that it really comes down to the advisors focusing on communication, listening to the client, and I'll say it 3 times, listening to the client, and then helping them fix the problems that they come in with. Is that once you really listen to the client, and, I'll give a shout out to George Kinder and the life planning movement, where they talk about goals first and the dreams that the clients have and all those things, then you really get a sense of, okay, where is the client trying to go? Then you can pick the tools up that you have as a financial planner or other advisor and say, okay, well, here's the tools that are best suited to get you to where you're trying to go, instead of like, okay, let's do a financial plan. We're going to do our standard intake form and we're going to do these 10 things. And then we're going to come back. We're going to give you a risk profile analysis and all these other things, which are fantastic and are definitely necessary. But most people walk in and their goal is to say, I want to be able to retire at age 55. I want to make sure that if something happens to me, my husband is taken care of. They want to take care of their kids. And they don't want to get into all these details right away. So as financial planners, we really want to encourage our clients to tell us as much as they can about what they want to do, how they want to achieve it. And then the last part, 2 other parts, is understanding how the clients feel about money, what their emotions are, what their history is with money. And then we also want to understand, like, what are their values? What do the clients hold important? Because some clients will hold like, well, I don't really need to make a lot of money. That's not important to me. I want to have more money to travel. I want to have more money to support philanthropy. So it's understanding what the client's values are and where they're coming from will help us be better advisors.
What if financial planning wasn't just about numbers, but about you, your values, your goals, your vision for the future? Nomi is transforming client discovery for wealth managers, going beyond assets and risk scores to uncover what truly matters. With behavioral insights and real-time data, Nomi helps advisors personalize advice, build deeper connections, and grow their businesses. Because the best financial decisions start with knowing you. Discover the future of client engagement at Nomi.com. If you were going to give the wealth management industry today a grade between 0 and 10, with 0 being really bad and 10 being really good, on how good are they at asking about how their clients feel about money, history, values, and even just listening as a skill, what grade would you give the industry?
Incomplete. Can I
Incomplete.
can I cop out with an incomplete?
Okay, that I guess
I
we'll
could
take
give
it.
a grade if you'd like. I would say that they're not there yet. I would say that they are failing, but that they understand there's a lot of people in the wealth management industry who understand that this is an issue they need to deal with. And there are a lot of people who are doing this. So that's why I say it's an incomplete, is because we are seeing things, like the registered life planning movement, financial therapists. We're seeing chief behavioral officers at some large firms, people like Brendan Fraser, Joshua Wilson, who's leading the charge on these types of things, Brad Klontz, who are really talking about these things. And so I think the conversations are just starting. So I think it's a little bit too early to say. So right now, yeah, not passing, but I think the impetus is there and the momentum is there.
I think that was a very fair assessment. I think it was fair and diplomatic at the same time. So I know a lot of your focus is looking at widening the tent. Financial services has been talking about this for a really long time. As an industry, it does feel overwhelming. It feels exclusionary. It feels like the fence or the wall to be prepared to come in and talk to you is so high that I'd rather not even come talk to you. And then when I do, I feel kind of so ashamed and not prepared that I leave not feeling like you didn't replace my knee. You didn't do what I came in here to get done in the first place. And even if you did, you were speaking in so much jargon. I have no idea what I'm going home with as an outcome. How would you suggest, or what are some of the tips that you talk about in your books about making it more inclusive, about not being as exclusionary as we can be as an industry?
Well, I don't get too much into that in my books. I talk a little bit about habits. No money shaming, I would say, probably applies. I think and you alluded to that, is making our clients feel like they don't understand things. But I think the biggest thing that we should talk about is gender. 30% of CFPs are women, and that's not good. 50% of Americans are women. So you think the numbers would be closer to even, but they're not. And so we also look at statistics that 70 to 80% of widows will leave their current financial planner when the husband passes away. Same thing with divorcees. So what we've got here is clearly that we're not talking to everybody, that we're using certain language, certain products, whatever, that only serve a certain segment of the population. And you can see this with some very large personal finance communities that are run by women, completely out of the financial service industry, like Clever Girl Finance, which has hundreds of thousands of members, and Tiffany Alicia's community, which has hundreds of thousands of members, and these really large personal finance movements that are outside the traditional financial services industry, because we're not talking to everybody. And again, I think it comes back to listening. So if you want to work with people who are not the same as you have to listen to them and actually understand what are their goals. And we've talked about women, but this goes with people of color. This goes with people of different cultures, even people who come from different monetary backgrounds. I can't think of quite the right word, but different wealth levels, and who have generational wealth issues. If they didn't grow up with money in their home, if their parents worked 2 jobs, they didn't live in a very nice place, whatever, and have access to the same thing, they're a first generation college student, their whole perspective is going to be very different than your perspective if you grew up in an upper middle class background, you went to a private college, you're coming from a very different place. So if you want to work with people who are different like you actually have to be curious about them. So we talked about curiosity on the part of the client. Now, this is where the advisor has to become curious about the client, and you actually have to care. So if you want to work, for me, If I want to work with a woman, let's say I'm not a woman, so I need to know more about a woman's perspective so that I can be effective in helping her solve her issues. And so that's what it comes down to me.
You, I think, have done such a fantastic job of creating this analogy between financial services and the health industry. And you talk about a financial first aid kit so that you can help people feel prepared, preparing for an emergency. I think people, when they're thinking about healthcare, they know exactly what that looks like and feels like. You also talk about collaboration and working with professionals in a way that really helps people picture what is the role of the financial professional helping me. And let me make it super crystal clear with this analogy to healthcare, just as you were describing before with the knee replacement. So when you think about inclusion and the connection between these two, do you have some favorite questions that open up the curiosity, that get people thinking in a way that is palpable, tangible, relatable to them, so that they're sharing the type of information that the professionals who might not be skilled or experienced at asking this softer emotional side of money, they've maybe never even asked about money history or money trauma or what is driving the decisions? What are the motivators behind whether it's good or bad decisions in your past? How are you kind of using some of the toolkit that you've got, using this beautiful analogy to healthcare, to help advisors, to help professionals create some of that deeper knowledge, reflecting that curiosity and questioning?
Well, so in the medical field I was a wilderness first response instructor, so I kind of went through this whole thing, but there's something called a SOAP report that you take, and it's subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. And that's a very important part. The subjective part is, how do you feel? What's your chief complaint? So if you come across somebody who's had an accident, you go, okay, what do you think your chief complaint is? You don't say exactly that, but what's going on? And they'll say, well, my arm hurts. And then you might look at them and you go, your objective component is, well, actually you're bleeding from your head, but you didn't notice that. And that's like creating a financial plan. Is the client walks in, they think something is going on, but there might be two or three other things going on. So you're doing a subjective component where you're asking them about themselves. And you're saying, well, does it hurt? What else are you feeling? What happened? You're getting all the background. And if you've ever talked to a medical professional, I know everybody watching or listening to this that's how your doctors usually start out. Like, what were you doing? What was the background? Oh, so you were climbing a ladder in the middle of winter when it was icy outside and you fell? Like, that's...
Context matter. Yeah, absolutely.
The doctor gets the background. They're asking the background information. Then they're taking their objective measurements where they may take your blood pressure, they may check your reflexes, do a lab, whatever they're doing. And then they're assessing it. But they're assessing both that subjective and objective component and factoring all those into a plan. Because everybody, let's say, for instance, has their own pain tolerance. So the doctor may adjust their plan based upon somebody's pain tolerance. And going to a dentist is a good example. Somebody may say, well, I want laughing gas, because I don't feel comfortable. And somebody else will say, well, I'm okay. Maybe I'll take a Tylenol. And that's enough. So, it's constantly adjusting on that subjective and objective information helps us to really understand, in this case, instead of our patient, our client, and what they're trying to achieve.
I think that's such a fantastic analogy. So you're talking about, here's a great little mechanism you can use. It's proven and works in healthcare. It goes beyond the objective and the kind of, when we look at, here are the symptoms and here's what I'm going to do about it. That's what financial services is really good about. We're very good at selling the product. I think what you're talking about with respect to the adjustment and the ongoing, iteration and deeper understanding is the ingredient that builds trust. Just like we want to build our advisor, we want to trust our doctor. We want to make sure that they're doing the right thing for us. So if you don't know me well enough, how do I know that you're doing the right thing?
Exactly. And, when you talk about history, something that came to mind right away is somebody will say, I'm scared of needles. So that's a part of their personal medical history or money history that the doctor's going to factor in, when they do their next steps.
I was trying to think of what is a good analogy in money for needles. maybe that's the insurance policy. I don't know. I'm trying to think what is like the analogy to the needle. But yeah, I think it's really, it makes it very relatable.
definitely. Well, I think the hard part about money, the needle, is actually talking about it for most
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true. That's
that's
the painful
that
part,
exactly.
the painful, vulnerable part. So, Tony, we always ask our guests on the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast, what is an instance in your life or a conversation that you had that has totally changed your personal relationship with money?
Oh boy, there have been so many amazing conversations that I've had. There's a friend of mine, Faith KLB, and she's the one who really got me started on this whole kick about curiosity and asking questions. She had a show called Where 401k Experts Get Curious. I came on the show, I was a guest on the show, and her whole approach is that she tries to challenge you on your thinking, but it's in the spirit of curiosity, not adversity, but like, okay, why do you believe that? Well, is that really the case? And so that really got me to rethink, like, okay, it's really about curiosity. That's the core. And so unfortunately, she doesn't have the show anymore, but that's what's inspired me.
Incredibly impactful. Tony, thank you so, so much for sharing your wisdom, your mission, your analogy, and imparting the importance of curiosity in the financial industry so that we can help our clients achieve. Your commitment to changing the way we think about money through collaboration, education, empowerment is incredibly inspiring and very, very well needed. Where can our listeners go to learn more about your work, your books, the Get Ready movement, and what you're involved in these days?
Yeah, well, great place to catch up with me is on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. You can go to my website, tonysteuer.com, and you can find my podcast, Get Ready Money Podcasts, on all major podcast apps and YouTube.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, what is one small action you could take this week to help you with your own inventory, organization, and management and accountability? I love that we started off on that point of here are the things that you can do to get ready and feel more confident in your financial life. Let us know, send a DM. Please like and share and comment on this podcast for the people that need to hear more about this topic. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining me.
Thanks, Marla, for having me. It's been a fun conversation.
Thank you for joining us on the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us bring more transformative conversations to you. Until next time, keep discovering, keep growing, and remember, you're in control of your own financial story. Follow us for more conversations on financial confidence, self-discovery, and the future of money.